My name is Michael Kaiser.
And I'm John Wilson.
And this is Make Ours Marvel.
We are doing episode 2 of our show today, where we are continuing our journey through the earliest days of the Marvel Universe. We have covered 2 issues of the Fantastic Four, and we're going to take a side trip before diving back into the Fantastic Four with Tales to Astonish 27.
Yay, a new character.
A new character! Not even really a character. This is just like a random story that gets reused later. But hey,
they cheated. Yep.
Yeah. I think there are some other random short stories along the way here that are technically in continuity, but I don't know how much of this we really need. Like, I think all the Medusa appearances are technically actually part of Medusa's life. I don't know if that's true or not.
Did we say who the character was, or are we keeping that a secret?
Oh, Ant-Man, right?
Ant-Man. Hank Pym Ant-Man. Michael Douglas Ant-Man.
Right, the old guy.
Yes.
Before he's old.
And it's your turn to do the don't look at the comic synopsis. So, hey, John, what's Tales to Astonish number 27 about?
Oh, crap. Okay.
The more you can forget, the better, honestly. It's right, more fun that way.
Not looking at the comic. Okay, so Henry Pym is a scientist, and he gets no respect from the Council of Scientists for his research. He wants to research ants, and they're like, psh, ants. He does it anyway. He figures out a serum to make things shrink and another serum to make things grow again. These happen by physical contact. You have to like splash it on the person or the thing. He decides to try it on himself because testing science on yourself is definitely not questionable at all. And he shrinks down Alice in Wonderland style and can't get back to the enlarging serum, also Alice in Wonderland style. He goes wandering outside trying to figure out what to do. He finds an ant pile. He encounters some ants, has some very dangerous journeys, saves one ant's life. The ant in turn saves his life and carries him back up to his apartment where he splashes in the enlarging serum and it's big again.
The end.
And the Council of Scientists are like, okay, you're cool. No, he goes back to the Council of Scientists like, you're right. I should never be imaginative again. I should only do what you tell me from now on, and throws away all of his Ant-Man stuff until 8 issues later.
Yep. You nailed it. So I am 98% positive whoever wrote Honey, I Shrunk the Kids must have read this story. It's exactly the same plot.
It really is. I think that this idea of shrinking is just one of those like imagination capture things. You're right. Honey,
yes.
Is the exact same plot. But Doctor Who also did Planet of Giants.
No, but I don't mean plot like he shrunk and hijinks ensue. I mean, he shrinks, and your summary was a little off. He didn't go outside on purpose. He flew outside somehow. What did it say? He stumbles out the door, and he has to spend the entire time going through his lawn, avoiding all these horrible ants. And then there's one nice ant that helps him get back to his...
Just like the one from Funny I Shrunk the Kids.
Just like Auntie. Yes.
Lily and I called him Dave.
And not only that, he's a scientist that everybody thinks is nuts because he's too imaginative and he's always doing weird things.
Are you saying that Rick Moranis is Henry Pym?
Yes. I'm saying this story is just like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, only there's no kids.
And no French class joke.
French class. Ha!
I get it now.
And other than the last panel, which I really actually do like, and I'm going to read it really fast, it says, and so our tale is ended, except for one brief note. Never again did Henry Pym knowingly step upon an anthill, for he knew that somewhere beneath him, unknown and unrecognized, was one little insect, one small ant, to whom he owed his very life. I just thought that was kind of sweet, if not, I guess a little cheesy, but that was just a cool little ending, especially if you were never going to do anything else with this character.
It is super cheesy, but also pretty sweet. And yeah, I don't know that Henry Pym actually never went through his life stepping on anthills because he's kind of crazy.
Well, and he becomes Ant-Man, and this clearly is one of those, like we've been saying all along, Marvel's doing a lot of anthology monster stuff, so this is Strange Tales. Tales to Astonish. Sorry. 27 issues into Tales to Astonish. This isn't a dedicated book to any particular person.
This is not even a superhero story pretending to be a monster story, or the other way on, a monster story that's kind of pretending to be a superhero story. This is straight up a monster story that later on, when they're making superhero comics, like, hey, remember that one guy from 8 months ago? We could use him.
Yep.
And we're going to find out later that this whole line of research for Henry was spawned out of grief following the loss of his life, which kind of helps to explain his determination in light of the science convention spurning him. Also, where is there a science convention that makes decisions about these things?
And also, I always wonder about those kind of scenes. Like, wouldn't you have at least some sort of data to show them that seems promising?
Right.
You know, they always seem like they go to these things and go, hey, I'm working on this thing back at the lab. I'm going to be able to shrink people.
And my wife is in the social sciences. I'm sorry?
And that's it. Like, there's nothing to back that up. So then, of course, they're all going to go, you're crazy. That's not possible. But if he went to the thing and said, look, here's the 99% done formula.
I just shrank this chair. Look, it's a chair.
Or even before that, like, he's not quite there yet, but here's my hypothesis. And if it was actually going to work eventually, then the hypothesis is probably strong.
The math should look good.
Yes. So then you would think that these guys would be like, oh, wow, that's pretty amazing. But instead, it's like they just show up and go, hey, I'm going to be able to turn green things pink and with no backup. And then everybody makes fun of them.
Right.
Anyway.
My wife is in the social sciences, which I know is not the same as the hard sciences, but, I have learned a lot more about like the whole peer review process that goes on when you are trying to publish a finding. That like, if you want to get published, if you want your article to appear in a reputable journal about what you have discovered in your field of learning, there are many people along the way that have to check out your writing and see if you are worth getting published.
Mm-hmm.
It's...
They don't just all show up at a convention and say whatever.
Show up at a convention. It's just like, I don't know. It's funny. So he tested on himself, which every time I watch that happen, I'm like, wow, that is the worst. Testing science on yourself. You don't do that.
Or anything first. Yeah.
And maybe he went through several other stages of trials before experiencing, like maybe he like did it on lots of stuff. And he's like, ooh, I want to experience this for myself. But I don't think that actually happened, because when he splashes on himself, he's really surprised at the speed of his shrinkage and how fast he shrinks.
Yeah. He should have put the stuff on the floor, maybe.
The floor, a rat, the kid next door that...
No, I meant like put the reverse elixir on the floor so he could reach it.
Oh, yeah, the growth formula. Yeah, put it in reach.
Like, prep a little. Think about it. Like, okay, I'm going to be 2 inches tall,
right,
or dead. So this should probably go there. And this glass should be something that I can actually reach into at 2 inches tall. I don't know. He didn't really plan ahead.
Eat me, drink me stuff up there on the table.
Yeah. In a big flasks that no way he could actually get into.
I like how ants understand sign language.
Yes. And, it's just a big adventure of what would it be like if you were tiny and ants were trying to kill you. And, a lot of it, he just gets out of things because he's a human and he knows how to use a matchstick. And he hurls a big boulder at the matchstick. So now there's the whole, like, not only does he get small, but he is also keeping his full-size strength, apparently. But even though they don't really go into that in this short story, but that's going to be his power later. Like, he doesn't have, tiny guy strength.
Right.
Even in this, he clearly is stronger than he should be.
And I think the idea is that ants are also stronger than their size.
Right.
But it also has a lot to, there's a lot of physics explaining all of that, in biology and such, but they just simplify it down to, when he shrinks, he still has all the strength of a grown man. Yes. And when he grows, he has a lot more strength than a regular grown man. It doesn't really seem consistent.
Well, yeah, he must, because otherwise he couldn't even stand up, probably. But I don't know.
We'll get to that when we get to Giant Man.
When we get to Giant Man when we're 75. So I don't know. I didn't have much to say about this. I did have to look up, like, again with the powers every time. I'm like, okay, well, who did shrinking first? So obviously there's Doll Man from the Golden Age, and then the Atom came out this year, 1961, but like in April.
Okay.
that makes me wonder. I mean, I'm not saying, because this isn't really Adam-like and he's not being a superhero or anything. Like we said, this is really more of a monster tale, so maybe it has nothing to do with anything. But you never know. Maybe also they're flipping through the DC books going, hey, they got a shrinking guy. Let's do a shrinking story.
So that means that once we get to the superhero era, we have at least 2 characters that are blatantly similar to established DC characters.
Yeah. And, of course, many more from there.
Right. Yeah, I didn't really have a whole lot on this either. Henry Pym enters this strip with very little personality beyond creativity and recklessness.
Right. Because it was a short story with no intention of making him any more than that.
So I wonder what the draw was. 8 months from now, whenever they're making superheroes and they want to increase their superhero count, what was the draw for this particular story?
The Atom? I don't know. Or maybe
there will be... What's that?
Maybe just, he's so desperate for ideas that he looks back on anything that could possibly be superheroic and just runs with it. Because he doesn't have to think of something new.
There will be some really cool art done with perspective, size perspective and stuff. And that, I imagine, could be fun to draw for the artist. And maybe that was the attraction to bringing this character back.
Well, I personally am looking forward to legit Hank Pym superhero stories because I haven't really read all that many. I'm mostly familiar with him through the Avengers. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately he gets tainted unfairly, in my opinion, gets tainted into this screw up wife beating whatever. So I'm kind of looking forward to just reading straight up when he was a superhero and legit.
Mm-hmm. I have read all of his pre-Giant Man adventures at least once, most of them twice, because I did that Avengers show with my daughter years and years ago now. But it's been a while. And a lot of it is just the cool quirkiness of being tiny in a world of giant stuff. When he becomes Giant Man, the strip, I think, changes in quality. Whether in a gain or a loss will be up to the taste when we get there. But it's not the same strip after that.
Okay.
As far as
superheroes are all about their powers anyway. That's what kind of makes Marvel, at least initially, different is they're not just about their powers. They had issues and problems. So I don't know if they ever did that with Hank Pym, given problems in these early stories. I guess I'll find out. But
yeah, we'll find out. I feel like less with him than with others.
They certainly do later, but anyway, should we move on to number 3 of the Fantastic Four?
The Fantastic Four, number 3. Okay, I'm closing that. Let me go over to my Fantastic Four Masterworks and Comixology here. Every comic we cover in this show, and we'll tell you when they're not, but for the longest time, they're all going to be available in collections from Comixology. So if you've never read these old issues, Comixology, the digital reading platform and company, they sell digital versions of Fantastic Four Masterworks. A digital version of the entire Ant-Man Tales to Astonish run.
And we get 50% every time you guys buy one of those. So
exactly.
I wish. Okay.
I wish.
So it's my turn, which kind of is bad because I'm going to not remember this one. All right. Fantastic Four, number 3. I am going to consult my notes. Came out in December of 1961.
Right, which means this is our last 1961 comic.
Last 1961 comic. It's 3 months after the last Fantastic Four, right? September.
Yeah, the dates are a little weird. 1 and 2 were less than 2 months apart, and 2 and 3 are almost 3 months apart.
Okay, so the kids have been waiting for some Fantastic Four. And, okay, here we go. Not looking. Starts off with our heroes at a magic show, and here we go. I officially cannot remember this dude's name, so I'm going to just call him
Mr. Miracle.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to make up a name for him? I'm so sorry.
That's fine. I was actually going to call him Mystery Man, but Mr. Miracle is his name, is showing off how amazing he is and how powerful he is, and he sees in the audience the Fantastic Four, who are apparently so famous enough that all you have to do is see him by their face at this point, and you know who they are. They're like movie stars. And he says, you guys think you're fantastic. I'm fantastic. And this, of course, makes the Thing really upset because he's like the hothead of the group right now instead of Johnny Storm. And Thunder's up there, and the guy's like, look, cut this log or punch this log in half. And the thing, of course, does it. And Mystery Man, why I already forget his name again. Mystery Man shows off that, yeah, you may have to punch it, but I could just slice it with one little finger. And he just slices it in half. And then he tells the thing, you can't even hurt me. And the thing punches him as hard as he can in the face, and it seemingly doesn't even hurt him. And so then they all leave the show, and Reed Richards is like, wow, glad we don't have to fight that guy. And then 5 minutes later, he decides to be evil. Yeah, they had to fight that guy. He turns out he is going to be evil. He's going to take over the world. He goes to some, I can't even remember what it is now, some sort of public event or something that's on TV, and he makes this big monster appear and attack everybody. The Fantastic Four see that, and they go in and try and stop it, and then the monster like disappears or something. And everybody's like, what the heck? What's going on? And Sue's like, well, while they're busy saying, what the heck? What's going on? I'm going to turn invisible and jump on Mystery Man's truck or something. And the guy drives away with her. And they're all like, oh, Sue, she like disappeared. So they go back to the hotel or where they're living, their apartment. Oh, it's like, actually, it's not an apartment. This is the issue. It's like their big Baxter Building-ish kind of thing, even though it doesn't have the number 4 on it yet. And it shows like a map of all their awesome gadgets and stuff. And apparently they have the whole top floor and everybody else is tenants underneath them. And they go back and go, gee, I hope so. Sue knows what she's doing. Because I guess she told the thing she was going to do this, and he was like cool with that or something. And so back at Mystery Man's lair, he has a dog who sniffs out Invisible Woman. And then he hypnotizes her and tells her to summon them with their awesome flare gun. They all show up, and he shoots them with a Tommy gun or something, and which doesn't really do much because Reed Richards can bounce around, and the thing is like bulletproof and stuff. So the dude gets in a train or something or a car and drives away, and they all go after him. And eventually Johnny flies ahead and flashes so bright that it like blinds Mystery Man or Mysterio Man or whatever his name is. And that's when they realize he doesn't have powers. He's just a hypnotist, which is kind of a power. But like he doesn't have the kind of powers he was talking about having. He's just pretending the whole time. They weren't really punching him. He wasn't really slicing those logs in half. I'm not even sure the monsters were real. So they get him to free Sue, and Reed is like, dang, Johnny, you're the real hero of this mission because you blinded him with your awesome flame. And the thing's like, what? You're giving that guy credit for actually doing stuff? Forget you. I hate that guy. And then Johnny's like, you know what? I'm sick of your attitude. You guys could be the Fantastic Three. And then he flies off, and it's to be continued.
The Thrantastic Three.
The Thrantastic Three. So other than not knowing the villain, I think I don't know. Maybe I missed something, but yeah.
Only that they get their costumes.
Oh, yeah. Well, we could talk about that.
Yeah, we talk about that.
But let's talk about this cover. Speaking of costumes, as much as I hated number 2, I love number 3.
Yes, you were talking earlier how, like, you know, trying to go under the mat about them being superheroes, and here, A, they have costumes.
Yes.
B, they're not fighting monsters; they look like superheroes.
Yes.
And C, he puts the greatest comic magazine in the world on the cover. Yes. I don't know how this got the okay.
Well, it wouldn't in today's world, I don't think. Now you can't even say going out of business unless you can prove it, right? So
right.
I assume there's rules now, but back then maybe there just weren't. Say whatever you want.
Superman was the best-selling comic in the world, and I believe it was running that at the top of its pages, at the top of its covers, for years and years and years. So
was it true?
Fantastic Four is, yeah.
Okay, of course it was true.
Yeah, through the 60s and 70s, Superman was the top-selling comic.
Okay.
So Fantastic Four is putting its emblem on the cover here as pure Stan Lee hyperbole. Yep. Stan Hyperba Lee.
And we have the Fantastic Car for the first time, and we have Fantastic Four costumes, and also learn the secret of Fantastic Four's skyscraper hideout. I mean, it's really all fun.
It is super fun.
But I will say, in reading what I was talking about earlier about them wanting to stay under the radar, they're obviously not staying under the radar anymore, but they did give them all matching costumes. Because even here, they were like, yeah, we could always lie and tell them they're quote-unquote uniforms, you know? Like, Invisible Girl isn't pink and Reed Richards' Mr. Fantastic is blue, and they all have like soldier outfits on, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Colorful soldier outfits. But so maybe that's why, or that is why, the Fantastic Four aren't individuals in terms of their look.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the idea of uniforms being uniform is not normally done in superhero comics. I mean, harken back to Challengers of the Unknown, like we talked about last week.
Mm-hmm.
They all dress the same.
Yep.
At least in the issues that I have read, which I have only slightly more Challengers of the Unknown experience than you have. Almost none.
Yeah.
But my envision of them is them running around in purple jumpsuits.
Yeah, so if you think Fantastic Four is competing with the only other team on the market, the JLA, obviously the JLA all look different. Flash, Green Lantern, Superman, all that. Fantastic Four are a cohesive unit, which ultimately, works out for them, I think, visually. I like that they all kind of match, but I think the motivation behind it was to, again, still not quite declare that they're superheroes, but they totally are.
So I love how they're just out, having a night. And they get called out. Like, we're just trying to have a good time, and we're being personally attacked by your insults here in the theater. Yeah. And also, Johnny Storm looks like a doofus.
So this reminds me of one of our other shows that we used to do. The Mighty Shield.
We used to do shows.
A Captain America podcast. Do you remember that old...
I do remember that one.
That one that lasted like 5 episodes, but...
It was fun.
In the first episode, Captain America Comics #1... The second story, Omar and Sando were also on stage doing impossible things. I don't know. It's pretty loose, but it kind of reminded me of the same setup, like Cap and Bucky are watching this guy who ends up being a villain, who's also an entertainer.
So, as we're talking here, my family have just come in the door, and so you might hear them a little bit in the background because that's what podcasting sounds like, folks.
Yay.
So where were we?
Oh, I was making a loose reference to Captain America Comics #1 because it had no actual influence on this, but it just reminded me of that setup.
And I mean, that's a pretty memorable comic because they've reprinted it and retold it in the Silver Age and such. Okay, so Mr. Miracle turns out to be a giant hypnotist, which I was trying to pay attention to in the course of the story to see what actually is believable in that. And
nothing.
I mean, I guess... Yeah. Depending on how far you want to stretch your disbelief, like nothing is believable as hypnotism versus almost everything if it's comic book hypnotism.
I mean, is he like a mutant? Because now we're talking maybe. Like if he could hypnotize an entire room without looking at it.
Right? In the comics, hypnotism is just a thing that happens. It doesn't actually have to be done. It's just suddenly, I'm going to hypnotize you and look, you're hypnotized. It just happens.
I didn't even mean that. Like, I just assumed at least eye contact is required, and he's in a stage full of people, and they're all seeing the same thing. And then later, they see him on TV, and they're seeing the monster on the television. So he's, like, hypnotizing the entire network of people who are watching the television, including the people that are there. Or was that a real monster? That wasn't a real monster.
I don't think the monster actually comes to life. But, I just realized it's only going to be a couple of episodes where we have another performer who hypnotizes crowds in order to do nefarious things. Because the ringmaster is going to show up in The Incredible Hulk #3.
Okay.
So Mr. Miracle, I mean, they're going to basically put him in new clothes and use him again.
So by the way, Doctor Strange, big fan of Mr. Miracle? Or is it just me?
with the collar and such?
Like, he just looks like Doctor Strange to me.
Yeah.
In a lot of these panels. Yeah. Like, especially the ones where he's kind of in the shadow and thinking about taking over the world, that just totally looks like Doctor Strange.
It does. It does. I'm actually just looking at Mr. Miracle real quick because I don't even know. I assume he comes back.
I don't know.
Does he come back? Looking for...
I hope
looks
not.
like there are no matches on the chronologyproject.com page. Miracle Man. Not Mr. Miracle. I'm stupid. It's Miracle Man.
Miracle Man.
Okay, so Miracle Man is in issue 138.
Of Fantastic Four?
He comes back. Of Fantastic Four.
Like, hopefully as like a homeless guy.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's a 2-in-1 issue, and there's a 3-part Defenders story.
Wow.
There is a very small handful of repeat performances from this guy.
Okay. Well,
and his last documented appearance was in something that they're calling P8. I had to go to the key to find out what P8 stands for. Come on, key page. Find P8.
P8. I don't know.
Well, they
Power Kids? Power Pack?
Yeah, I don't know. Why isn't my find thing coming up? Find P8. Punisher. What?
What? No.
Punisher, the 2009 series. He comes back for a couple issues of that.
Maybe he dies.
Yeah. Maybe he gets shot in the face.
That would be awesome. I would read that. Okay.
Okay.
But anyway, in addition to the whole he looks like Doctor Strange, on this one page where he looks a lot like Doctor Strange, page 5 is where we get introduced to the Fantastic Four's new headquarters. What's it called? Fantastic Four Skyscraper Hideout. Yeah.
Yeah, diagram of the Fantastic Four's secret headquarters, saved for future reference. We're going to find out later they've carved out all 5 of the top floors of this building, but it's much less elaborate in this opening diagram. It looks like we have, well, there may be 5 floors there. There's a hangar floor and then a living quarters floor. No, that's just 2 stories.
Don't you love these diagrams, though? Like, that's just something they don't do
fun
anymore. They're so fun.
But my question is if you're in a skyscraper and your headquarters is secret, but you have a long-range passenger missile launch pad just in the corner of the building.
Yeah.
I get the hidden elevator with the secret, beam. I get, your conference room and everything, but your fantastic car comes in and out of the roof. You have a fantastic copter. You have a Pogo orbit plane.
Of course. A giant map room, missile monitoring room, missile ready room, launch pad.
Oh, but you know what it is? There's an anti-vibration wall.
Is that
I bet you he has this whole thing laced with vibranium.
You'd think it'd still get really hot. I don't know. Yeah, it'd have to come out of somewhere.
Right.
Or maybe...
But at least it's not going to, send noises down to the neighbors.
Maybe his missiles aren't propelled by combustion like we know it or something. I don't know.
Maybe it's unstable molecules, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all their suits stretch and turn invisible and stuff. They haven't explained that yet either.
No.
I've decided not to care.
I think our first mention of unstable molecules actually comes in Ant-Man before we get it in Fantastic Four, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Okay, so the celebrity of these guys in the show, he calls them out. They're known to have powers. So by this point, maybe they've actually done a few public good works. Because in the comics, no one knows who they are. They went to Monster Isle and blew it up. No one saw that happen. They encountered the army, but not in a public way, and they scared the Skrulls off.
But the army knew where they were, which suggests to me they looked up Reed Richards' residential areas or something and found that they had a cabin and went to it. It didn't seem like they were very secretive about it.
But somehow their headquarters is secret. But anyway, so Mr. Miracle knows what a Fantastic Four is. And he's like, I'm cooler than you, Fantastic Four, so F you.
Yeah. And that doesn't make Thing happy, of course.
No.
But how irresponsible is this whole punching him in the face thing? You better hope that guy's legit, because otherwise you just killed somebody. You know what I mean? Your punches can't even hurt me. Can you imagine if he was just an amateur, like a David Blaine or something, and it just went wrong, and the dude's head exploded?
Yeah.
Yeah, Thing would be in jail for the rest of his life because he was pissed off at a magician.
It's one of those, the Enterprise should be hauled away as garbage.
Yes, except in that case, Scotty can't bench a building. So it's okay. It's okay if he punches a Klingon who's probably stronger than him.
It's not going to have a Walking Dead Glenn moment where the eyeball's bulging out of his face.
No.
Do you remember in Ultimate Fantastic Four how the Fantastic Car gets its name?
No.
So Reed Richards is, of course, a little nerdy shy boy in that series, right? And he names it the Fantastic Car and doesn't want to admit it. They're like, does this ship have a name? And Reed's like, well, I gave it a name, but we don't really have to use it. And Johnny's like, no, what'd you name it, Reed? What'd you name it? I called it the Fantastic Car. And they're like, and so the next one that they do, the next ship that they use, they call it the Awesome. Johnny Storm names that one. He calls it the USS Awesome or whatever.
Because that's better.
Right. Because it's awesome, dude. The rule of cool.
So speaking of superhero cars, they also get their costumes, like you said, and I forgot to say that. But this whole panel, or these 3 panels of Sue hey, look, I made us costumes. And And the second panel, she says, and for you too, it's time we all had some colorful costumes. And then Thing says, that's for kids or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. I found an original version of that panel that involved them also wearing masks. So the second panel is Sue Storm holding up a mask saying, and we can wear these masks. And Thing is like, masks, that's for kids. And they changed it because they decided, well, how the heck can the Thing wear a mask and what would be the point anyway? And Human Torch also. And again, we're being a little shy about them being superheroes. And so let's just let them be public people.
Which makes sense with the earlier version of pages in the script.
I'll post that. I found it online. I'll post it on the show notes if anybody wants to check it out. It's virtually, I mean, it's almost identical except she's holding up a mask and it's different dialogue.
I feel like I've seen that art.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it.
And I don't know where it came from.
Thing still gets a helmet. And I actually think that maybe she's being considerate because, like you said last episode, Thing is always hiding his face.
Right.
He's seriously self-conscious.
And you'd think like those sunglasses would break all the time in a fight. So maybe the helmet won't.
Right. Or just think like pulling them off his face, they break.
But I've been reading, you probably have too, reading the letter pages, and they went bananas over the whole, the Thing, thinking the costumes were kid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, finally, yes. I like these grown-up...
Someone understands.
I like these grown-up superheroes who wouldn't wear stupid costumes and who don't get along and actually have real adult problems. Like, that's pretty much the theme of the first few letter pages, so... I don't know, it seems like something we just take for granted now, but, like, this is, like, big deal. This is like Superman saying, I'm not going to wear a stupid cape.
Right. And maybe that's part of why they took Wonder Woman out of the costume in the 70s.
Yeah,
maybe that's part of being feminism. They okay, well... if costumes are stupid and silly, let's make Wonder Woman act like a grown woman.
Especially hers, right?
Right. I love when hypnotism works over TV cameras.
Yes.
And Sue's first thought, whenever the monster's running crazy, instead of let's all go be superheroes and fight him, she's like, let's call the police commissioner. We should notify the authorities so they can take care of this. I like that, and it might be the last time it ever happens.
Yes, probably. She does seem to be the rational one of this group. I mean, I guess Reed doesn't really get in a lot of fights, but he certainly doesn't seem to help the situation all that much either.
No, he really doesn't. I wonder, whenever Reed takes on the monster and fails... And I'm starting to wonder if maybe that's when he starts to realize like he has his actual encounter with the monster, and maybe there's something in the way that goes down that makes him start thinking about what could actually be happening. Maybe that's when he starts to clue in that this might be hypnotism or might be something unreal.
I think it's funny he gets knocked out by a brick though.
Yeah.
Like how's that happen?
Should he? I mean, he's rubber. Wouldn't it just bounce off him?
I guess maybe he kept his head solid for no reason in that panel. I don't know. Speaking of Star Trek, hey, let's bring up Star Trek every episode. So there's that original like first season episode of Deep Space Nine, and Odo's in a cavern and it starts collapsing and the rock hits him on the head and he gets knocked out. Same thing. How does a shapeshifter get knocked out? Yeah. Anyway.
So okay. Also, Thing tears off his clothes in one spot and then suddenly he's dressed again in another.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Like on page 11, he tears off his shirt, and then in page 13, he has no shirt. But then suddenly page 14, he's dressed again. Now, granted, an hour does go by.
It's funny how anti this outfit he is, considering up till now, he's always wearing a high-collared trench coat, a hat, and sunglasses. It's like Sue essentially covered him head to toe in a more combat-ready outfit, and he can't stand it. He wants it to be naked.
Yeah, he does.
But
he just likes being naked.
But he hates everybody looking at him at the same time. Maybe he just likes being contrary. I don't know.
If anything in this is contrarian, it's definitely going to be the thing. So the helmet lasts like 4 panels. I don't think we ever see that helmet again.
No, we do. If you want to do the time travel John Wilson thing, like by Fantastic Four 300 or something, he gets horribly scarred by Wolverine. And so he starts wearing the helmet. Yeah, he gets slashed in the face, so he's even uglier than he already is. And he starts wearing the helmet as part of his costume.
Okay.
I don't know what issue. I just made up the 300s, but somewhere in the 90s. But Sue, once again, kind of like the logical person. I don't know, maybe it's not logical to jump in the back of the bad guy's truck, but it's just kind of like, well, you boys are screwing everything up. You know, they're all getting their butts handed to them. And she just goes, I'm just going to go turn invisible and get in his truck.
It's not a bad play. I mean, she is invisible.
Yeah.
She should be able to sneak around. She should be able to do something surveillance-y.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a bad play. It's just that the dog sniffs her out of nowhere, canine ex machina.
And really, her only power is to turn invisible. And I've said that before, alluding to the fact that we know eventually she gets more substantial powers in addition to being invisible.
But defense and stealth are her two main modes right now.
That's it. So what else is the invisible person going to do if not sneak around into the hideout? So
we get another recap of the origin, and afterward, Thing says something that hails back to the first issue. I don't want to be normal for a few minutes. I want to be Ben Grimm again. I want Sue to look at me the way she looks at you.
Yep. So it's still there. The love triangle.
It's still there. This little love thing going on. I wish I knew more about how much that sticks around. Definitely, It's a part of Ultimate Fantastic Four. I don't know how much it's a thing in this thing. I don't know how much it goes on or is remembered or at least recalled in regular Fantastic Four.
I would say not much because, of the Fantastic Four I've read, they all seem more like brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
Or she's the mom or something like that. So I don't think this lasts very long, but we'll find out.
Also, the Thing was dressed, tore off his clothes, was dressed again, and then by page 18 is topless again for no reason.
Well, I do think he looks better without the shirt, but,
Yeah. He's just, it's...
That's kind of the funny thing about these uniforms is they're all wearing the same outfit to be unified, but then the Human Torch and the Thing don't really wear them. I mean, the Torch does, but you don't see it when he's using his powers, so...
Right, when he's in the action, he turns into fire. So really, Reed and Sue, and they're married. So it's like, they're wearing the Fantastic Four outfit, and the other guys are also part of the team.
Yeah. So then we get Johnny.
Until you have the kids, you have like the 4.5 on it, which with Franklin, I love that.
Yeah. Speaking of kids, you get Johnny hanging out with the kids scene.
This is the most obnoxious friend group.
Yeah.
Hey, Johnny, why can't we join the Fantastic Four? We're your pals, ain't we?
Because you'll die.
Right. You have no superpowers. We are freaks of nature.
I don't know what else. I mean, see, here we go.
Really, I have nothing else until the end.
Well, in Fantastic Four #1, in that scene we make fun of in the beginning where they're all destroying New York to get together, I remember the Thing kind of actively avoiding machine gun fire by punching the street and going into the sewer and all this stuff. In this issue, he takes it, but it looks like it hurts him. He says ugh and oof and then falls over. So that's interesting.
Maybe he didn't realize he could take it.
Or he's just not as powerful as he'll eventually
be.
No,
he jumps in front of it. He's like, Reed can't dodge those dum-dums forever. I got to do something. He jumps into the way of the bullets.
Yeah. At last, he's out of ammo. I don't know. So, yeah. All these Marvel characters get stronger and stronger as they, never age. But
yeah.
Reed turns into a rubber tire, so that's humiliating.
But kind of fun looking.
And then, I don't know.
That's it. Johnny does kind of do the last save the day. I mean, he does not save the day on his own. He is not the only one winning the day here. But he does put a final pause in Miracle Man's path long enough for them to unhypnotize Sue. And Reed's like, it's all hypnotism.
Right.
But the thing with the Thing pissing off the Torch and making him fly away is that Johnny's not mad at the group before this point. And what Thing says is nothing worse than the jabbing they were giving each other earlier in the issue. So this is really a big example of the Torch being like a dish it out but can't take it kind of guy.
Yeah, because I kind of skipped over it in my amazing summary of Total Recall, but they fight a few more times in this issue. About what I can't even remember. Oh, Sue being in danger and how come you let her just, jump into the guy's car or truck or whatever. So this is just kind of like the last straw, I guess, where it's just one fight too many. And Reed didn't even say Johnny single-handedly defeated you. He said, thanks to the Torch's blinding flash, your hypnosis no longer works, which is true.
Right.
And then Ben with his weird no-eyes face is just like, you're giving that flaming juvenile delinquent the credit for this whole caper, which he did not say.
And the thing has reason to not like Johnny. Remember whenever earlier he was saying, I want Sue to look at you the way he looks at me?
Yeah.
Johnny immediately lashes at him. Is like, the idea of Sue being in love with you is so laughable. That's really stabbing Thing in the heart.
That's true. It's also something a brother would say.
It is. But of course he flies off, and what do we do if he turns against humanity? I think he's getting Johnny confused with the Thing there.
Yeah, I was like, what is the Fantastic Four, a cult now? You can't leave us? Your powers are too great. You must stay in the same apartment.
Could be.
So the villain was horrible. It's fun to see the fantastic car and the costumes and the new building. And, now they seem like an official group. Of course, now they're down to 3 already. But otherwise, this issue was okay. I didn't like Mystery Man or whatever his name is because I don't even like him, so I can't remember his name. The Miracle Man.
Well, we won't have to deal with him again. Possibly ever. Until
Frank Castle shoots him in the face, maybe.
Right.
If that's even the same guy. So.
If we make it to Fantastic Four issue 158, we'll be like, oh, this bitch again. And then we can deal with it.
Right. I hope we remember to say it exactly like that. That'll be the title of the episode. Episode 500. Oh, this bitch again.
So ready for the Fantastic Four 4? The 4 issue?
A much better issue.
It's Wendy's 4 for 4. Would you like a Junior Bacon Cheeseburger or a chicken sandwich?
Yeah. Your turn again.
It's my job to blind synopsize this.
Yeah. How come I get all the dumb ones? This was a bad time.
I don't know, because this is a cool issue.
Yeah.
No, you did the scrolls.
Yeah, that's okay. Anyway. All right.
Okay.
Not as good as this.
I am going to have to think about this one. I don't have all the plot beats of this one down in my head as I used to have.
All right. You just read this one last.
Yeah, I did. The team is looking for the torch. They can't find the torch. The torch is hiding out in the with his friends, and they're like, oh, I remember marking down, like, oh, the whole city is looking for the torch, and we got him right here. The whole city is not looking for the torch. It's just the Fantastic Four. Thing goes to the garage and tears it open and scares Johnny off again, and he turns into a human being for another second there. And Johnny's like, stupid guy. He knows he's going to turn back into the Thing. Johnny keeps on flying. They keep on looking for him. Johnny goes to the Bowery and runs into this mysterious amnesiac strong dude with much hair and beard. And Johnny, you know how getting your hair caught in an open flame is really, really dangerous?
Unless you have control.
Like when you're doing science, like in a chemistry lab, they always like, pull your hair back, because that stuff will burn all the way off lickety fast.
Yes.
And so Johnny just burns this guy's face off.
Yes.
Well, his fur. He burns off his beard, burns off his hair, gives him a crew cut. Oh, look, he has pointed ears. Oh, look, he's the Submariner. Mm-hmm. He doesn't remember who he is? Well, the Submariner likes water. I'll go throw him in the water. So he throws him in the water. Submariner wakes and is like, ha, 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 I am the Submariner. Where are my Atlantean peoples? He goes to find them. Oh my gosh, they're all dead. This surface world is evil. I will after 10,000 years, I'm free. It's time to conquer Earth. It's literally what the Submariner says.
Yes.
And Johnny Storm is freaked out by this, so he shoots a flare into the air, and the Fantastic Four are like, oh, Johnny's shooting the flare into the air. So they get there, and Thing's like, why are you shooting the flare into the air? It's only for emergencies. We've only been looking for you for 25 pages. And Johnny's like, shut up, I never want to see y'all again anyway, but there's a big deal going on right now. So Namor goes to the ocean, finds a horn buried in the ocean. We find out in some other comic, in some other part of Marvel history, it's called the Horn of Proteus. I know because I looked it up. And he uses it to awaken this giant whale with limbs. It's called a Giganto, which is actually the name of a species, not just this one guy. Giganto goes and invades Manhattan. The Fantastic Four try to stop it. They're not super successful until Ben Grimm goes into its mouth with a bomb. A nuclear bomb. We're just going to ignore that in the script because nuclear does not mean more powerful bomb.
Because New York still exists, yes.
Right. I think Stan just thought nuclear meant more powerful.
Yeah.
So Ben drops the bomb inside the monster's gullet, runs out. The monster gets killed by the explosion, and Namor's still going to conquer the Earth, falls in love with Susan Storm, asks her to marry him. She's like, if it'll stop you from killing the world, I guess. And Reed's like, no, you can't do that. I'm jealous. And so Johnny Storm then creates a big vortex, very much like Thor does with his hammer, but somehow he does it with fire, and sends Namor and the corpse of Giganto back into the ocean.
Did you just make up Giganto, or is that really what he was called?
It's really what he's called.
Oh my god. How did I miss that?
I don't know.
Giganto? Okay. Anyway.
So yeah.
I think that was it. Good job. That's how I remember it anyway.
Thanks. I'm just flipping through it now to see what I forgot. No, it looks like I got all the main parts.
So another classic cover. I mean, this one's pretty dang famous.
This is a good cover. I like this cover.
Submariner rushing into the ocean with Sue Storm in his arms and everybody else running behind him going, hey, give us back our invisible woman.
And this is an important issue. I mean, out of the 4 so far, 3 is the only one that can be discarded as stupid. But the cover of 3 is good because it has their costumes. It has fantastic art. Mm-hmm. So we have 4 iconic covers, even though the style of number 2 is not actually a very good design. I think it still is part of like the major early covers.
Yeah.
This one's good though.
So it's funny.
What do you like about the design on this?
Oh, on the cover?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess it's just because I've seen it so much and they've used it so many times. It's just some things just become classic based on their, I guess, the fact that they've existed for so long in the mythos or however you say that word. It's great to see the Submariner. I think he looks particularly interesting considering we've had the Skrull and a monster as our villains on the cover. That's what makes number 3 stand out so much too. There's no villainy on that. That's just a straight up superhero pinup. Mm-hmm. And then this one we get our first like legit kind of like superhero.
This is
villain.
the first super villain on the cover.
Yeah, this guy is not going to be in Journey into Mystery, or at least as it was in 1962.
Well, this is the beginning of 2 now.
This is our first 1962 Marvel episode.
Ha ha ha.
2 months after, so we're on schedule again.
Yep. I think the thing on the cover kind of looks like they look like big, strong hands, don't they?
The thing is very diminutive on that cover, it seems like.
Yeah. He's not really doing much. And
I don't know if they want him to be short, because, the stereotypical thing that I think of when I think of the Thing is a very tall, big individual, but he doesn't seem like to be towering yet in his design.
I don't really think of him as tall. I think of him as broad, but not necessarily that tall. Maybe he's tall.
Well, I mean, like, he stands next to Sue, and they're like the same height, seems like. I don't know. We'll have to look up
he might have a couple inches on her.
Those nerdy websites and see how tall he's supposed to be.
So the Submariner, as we said last episode, the Submariner is one of Marvel's staple of characters from the 40s. They revived the Human Torch with this team, and they're reviving the Submariner with this comic. Now, the Submariner led his own comic for years and years in the 40s. He was his own man, not a supporting character. Whereas here, it's going to be a while before the Submariner has his own comic. And he kind of has this sort of little saga that just like goes on in the background of Fantastic Four for several years.
So you've read a lot of, or a lot more Golden Age than I have. Have you read a lot of Submariner World War II tales? Or pre-World War II tales, I should say.
So as far as Marvel goes, I've only read a little bit. I've read a lot of Captain America.
Yeah, me
but
too.
Not a lot of other stuff. Like, I've read a couple Human Torch stories, a couple Submariner stories, maybe like a dozen of the Marvel Mystery Comics issues, and that's about it.
So my understanding is that he started out as a not-so-great guy, and then by World War II, they turned him into like a full-blown all-winner squad superhero, right? Something like that?
Ish. He is kind of an anti-hero. He goes back and forth.
So I wasn't sure how bad he was when he first came out. Was he like legit just a bad guy, or was he... I mean, what was his...
when he first comes out, he's basically the same character, just with a lot more like young arrogance, cockiness to him. Here, he's definitely arrogant, but it's more like a full-grown man's arrogance instead of like a 20-year-old's arrogance. But yeah, early Marvel Mystery Comics, Submariner is definitely not a hero.
Okay.
He's a hero for non-humans. He's a hero for the other side.
Well, just like here, essentially. He's doing this for his people. Okay, so I wasn't sure if he had tried. I guess I knew that because there's the whole big, like, Human Torch and Submariner crossover where they're fighting over New York City. So, yeah, I guess he was trying to destroy it even back then. So, I think the whole, like, Johnny quits the team and goes missing thing seems to wrap up really easy. And I would think, like, if this was a modern story, this would be a whole, like, 6-part thing of trying to get Johnny to come back and, you know, it'd be a trade paperback called The Human Torch Quits or something like that. Where instead it's just like, oh, he found Submariner, so let's get the team back together and I guess we're all good now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it happens easy because the Thing finds him.
Well, yeah.
But then he still doesn't want to come back.
God.
He continues to run.
The Thing, it's funny, they all have their own motivation. Like, Reed wants the Human Torch back because he could be a danger to the world if he doesn't hang out in their apartment together to be supervised.
Right.
Sue wants him back because that's her little brother and she's worried about him. And Ben wants to find him to punch him in the face. And, of course, Ben finds him.
He gets to punch him in the face.
And tries to punch him in the face. And the thing that's really kind of scary is, like, you know, I made fun of him for punching Mystery Man or the Magician Man or whatever in the face full blown and not knowing whether he would survive that. But here's, like, the thing, knowing the torch can't flame on because he's in a car garage working on his awesome hot rods and there's, like, gas or something. So if he flames on, he'll blow everybody up. And here's the thing, like, throwing cars at him.
Right.
And telling him, you can't flame on, haha, there's too much gas here, so now I'm going to crush you or whatever. And it's like, that's a legit threat. Like, the Thing can kill you, you know? So, So the fact that the Johnny's like,
I agree.
He's turning human, I'm out of here, like, that's not even Johnny being a jerk. That's Johnny just trying to survive. Mm-hmm. Why would he come back after that?
So Johnny has more reason not to join the team. So later, whenever he says, I would only have fired, I never wanted to see any of you again.
Yeah.
He's telling the Thing, you're a jerk. I really never wanted to see you again.
Right. And then you see on the bottom here, it says, what is the Hulk?
Yeah, I was going to come back to that later. Can we save that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. Now, Ben has a change here back to human.
Yep.
And it seems to come out of nowhere.
Yep.
But I was wondering if maybe it was like leftover effects from hitting the cosmic rays again in issue 2. Because we didn't talk about it last episode, but he changes back to the human again in issue 2. Because when they go up to space and see the scrolls, they hit the cosmic ray belt again.
That's right.
So this is like a reticent, recurring reaction of regeneration reversal due to cosmic rays.
Did he do that in 3 also, or no? I don't think so.
Not in 3.
No. So, yeah. Could be. I mean, I'm wondering how many more times they do this, because, like I said, like, it's just kind of funny, like, they keep giving him hope, taking it away, and it just seems random. So, I don't know. Yeah, it could be. But how come that the other 3 don't lose their powers?
Yeah.
Or maybe they do, and you can't tell.
Because they're not using them.
Like, if I was Human Torch not flamed on, how would I know my power is gone?
Like, while he's sitting there reading Submariner comics, he actually can't flame on, just doesn't know it.
Right. So,
interesting.
I don't know. Like, the Thing is always on, so it's easier to tell, maybe. I don't know.
The Torch is reading Submariner comics. He says, I remember Sis talking about him. He used to be the world's most unusual character. And I'm like, did Sis ever talk about how the Submariner would pal around with another Human Torch? Like, did she talk about that?
Or is Sis, like, 40 years older than you? Like, wouldn't that sentence have made more sense if I remember Dad talking about this? Or Mom?
Yes.
Like, Sis is like...
Because it's a generation gap right now. This is 20 years apart.
Yeah. So that seems odd. Unless she just really liked retro stuff, maybe. I don't know. Right. But yeah, I always find it interesting that in the Marvel Universe, there's comics about Marvel heroes. And I've always wondered, like, how they read different from the comics we get to read.
I was always amused whenever someone in Action Comics would be reading Action Comics when I was doing my Golden Age Superman podcast.
Somebody should do like a Captain America comic within the Marvel Universe. Like, how do they solve the problem of, like, not knowing who he is? Well, I guess they know who he is. That's a bad example. But, you know, like, if there's Batman comics within the Batman universe and nobody knows who Bruce Wayne is, then what do? They just make adventures of Batman and not reveal who he is, or do they make up their own thing? I
like to think that in a DC universe where Batman is a brooding, dark Vengeance of the Night character. The Batman comics are where he's fighting like aliens from Mars.
Yeah, that could be it. That
and
works.
like try to get married to Batwoman and leave Robin behind forever.
And this may not even be a comic. This could just be like a legit, 40s periodical on Submariner or something. I don't know.
Oh, you're right. He does say Beat Up Comic Mag, but if not for that, he could just be reading a magazine about Submariner, like a doc. Yeah, he does say that.
Okay.
But I like that idea that he's reading like Newsweek.
So do you think that they brought this in because they thought he looked a lot like the homeless guy? Or do you think this is just an amazing coincidence that this comic is sitting right next to the actual Submariner?
It's another situation where Johnny Storm is like, I hope the plot is really convenient for me at this point. Oh, look, the plot is convenient. This guy looks like Submariner that I was just reading about.
Right. That's what I'm wondering. Like, but then they were saying like, I think one of the bums is saying something like, hey, you know who that guy reminds me of? You're reading about Submariner. We got some of them right here who's supposed to be as strong as that Joker. So I'm wondering if someone just like grabbed that book because they too were into Submariner. I don't know. Anyway, I thought about that too much. I love that they...
It's a cool retcon that like somebody else in the thing just like has the magazine because this guy reminds me of Submariner, like this Submariner comic I have. Hey, look at this, guys. Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Or they went out and bought it after they decided that, or, just to check it out. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Go Away, You Puny Flea. That made me so happy. I don't know why. Just because it's like, that's Namer for you. I'm happy that Namer's in our universe already as we do this. But yeah, they're like
and
deciding.
And in my mind, Namor always has like a slight accent to his speech.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
Whenever he's "Go away, you puny flea," is more like "Go away, you puny flea." Has a little bit of a stilted voice to him.
He is Atlantean, right? So you'd think he wouldn't talk like he's from Jersey. But of course, we don't get to hear dialogue or accents and stuff in these dialogue balloons. But I did think about that, like. These guys don't know who he is, and he's unusually strong. And it's like, does he have a heavy Atlantean accent? Or they go like, where are you from? France? But they didn't. So whatever.
It is a really cool reveal, though. If we didn't have it telegraphed on the cover, this page 10, shave off the face and the fur, and he suddenly looks like the Submariner. That's possibly the coolest reveal in Marvel Comics so far.
Yes. But you're right. It's like Johnny's very good at controlling that flame sometime. I feel like too good, too good,
Too good.
But he did keep a 5 o'clock shadow.
Johnny basically creates one of, it left the shadow.
Yeah.
He basically creates one of mankind's greatest threats. Like, he didn't mean to.
No.
And I like the idea of giving this guy agency, even if it turns out to be a dick. But Johnny Storm created the Submariner.
Well, but the thing is, like, if his sister told him about the Submariner, and the world knows about the Submariner clearly, then their last memory is that he was helping them beat the Nazis. So he's a hero. Or hero-ish. He fought alongside Captain America, or multiple Captain Americas. Not that they know that, but... So there's no reason to believe that just because you toss him in the water to help him get his memory back that he's going to come out evil.
This is true.
But anyway.
Do you think that Ben told the others he found Johnny and scared him off again?
Nope. Sure don't.
I wouldn't either.
What's he going to say? I almost killed your brother by throwing a car at him?
Sorry.
I like this, like, all these little bits of them searching around, It's kind of cool. Like, that's the thing that's kind of neat about Marvel. I don't know if they actually said the words New York yet. I haven't been paying attention to that. But that is one thing. Like, DC, every character kind of has their own city and all that stuff. But Marvel, everybody kind of like, New York is the superhero capital of the world. And, they just kind of have that vibe. Like the Fantastic Four could be part of this community, and like here's Reed Richards poking his head at subway trolleys looking for the thing, and Invisible Woman like is at a malt shop like sucking down a Sunday Invisible and making people go what the heck, and it's all just kind of like good fun, but it gives you like a connectivity to our real world that maybe like Metropolis or Gotham City can't do.
I like that too. It feels like in recent Spider-Man universe, whenever the Scarlet Spider goes down to Houston, Texas,
yes.
I'm from Texas. I live near Houston. That's really cool that he's down bumming around in my area of the country.
Yes. West Coast Avengers. I was born, raised California. That's some good stuff right there. Or, even cheesy things like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. You know, you mess with Spider-Man, you mess with New York. You know, that kind of stuff. That's just cool, and it doesn't work as good as like even say The Dark Knight, Gotham City. You know, nobody kills each other because Gotham City is full of people with gold hearts or whatever. It's like that doesn't work. That doesn't play as good because it's not real. And New York is real.
But
Chicago's
to answer your
real.
question that started this, I don't think they've actually said New York yet. And I think the second issue, I didn't notice this on this read through, but I think from previous read throughs, I remember noting that it says other things like Midtown or something like that.
Yeah.
I could be wrong though.
Yeah.
So then we get to Giganto.
I can't believe
And
that's
yes,
his
they're
name.
on page 15, the deadly Giganto.
I can't.
Only one thing can arouse
Wow.
him, this trumpet horn, which my ancestors buried here centuries ago.
Giganto. I can't believe that.
Also, the giant green reptilian monster on the cover of Fantastic Four 1 is also called Giganto, but that's Giganto from the Deviant Mutates, and this is Giganto, the whale life forms from they're an Atlantean water species. So different, that's specific character named Giganto in issue 1, and this is a species of Gigantos in issue 4.
This Giganto is like a super sad sack, in my opinion. Like, first of all, he literally looks like a whale with legs, a tail, like a serpent tail, and then arms that are in a spot that couldn't possibly be useful. Like, they're coming out of the top of his back. You know? Like, you couldn't even walk with those. You know, what do they do? That's worse than a T-Rex, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, they're coming out like way far back there. They're not manipulative.
And he was just sleeping, minding his own business. He's sad, and then like the human or the Submariner makes him wake up and kill everybody, and you know he didn't really ask for
that's
that.
all Gigantos do. They all just like sleep in the bottom of the ocean until the horn wakes them up. That's
I know.
That's their existence.
But you'd think, like, I was just thinking, like, if this was Aquaman, would he want this rare Giganto beast to sacrifice himself for his cause? Or does he care about his fish friends? You know, like, Submariner doesn't seem to care about the sea life all that much. I mean, granted, he doesn't talk to fish or anything. He's an Atlantean. Maybe they don't care. But, like, this just seems like he's just sending this thing off to die.
Yeah. And they do explicitly call this New York. I didn't realize that. At page 16, if it didn't happen earlier, it happens here.
Awesome.
Evacuate New York.
All right.
So
there
the
you go.
Bowery that Johnny Storm went to was the Bowery of Manhattan Island.
Okay. So we could go there someday. And our 10th anniversary of this show, we'll do a tour of Fantastic Four's New York.
We should do that. I love that Submariner calls them clods.
Where? Oh, yeah.
It might actually be a bit later now. I might have gone a bit too far. But at some point, he calls them clods. And I don't know if you ever watched Steven Universe.
Mm-mm.
You ever watch that?
No.
That is a great show. I don't know how old your boy is at this point, but the Steven Universe is a great show. But there's this one female character who's always calling humans clods.
Okay.
And it just sounds so ridiculous and fun. But yeah, so Submariner is basically Peridot from Steven Universe.
Awesome. So do you think nuclear bombs look like this?
I think nuclear bombs look like little pods
Yeah.
that like can explode into mushroom clouds.
This is like an Acme for those who don't have the issue. It's this huge Acme bomb with these big fishy tails on them, and they're just strapped to the thing's back, which makes him look very strong. It's kind of cool, actually. It's kind of a cool visual. Him just like walking through a destroyed New York with his bomb on his back, and then like Giganto decides to take a nap, I guess. Because, you know, it's hard work moving all that. And then
It's a good thing that Giganto opens his yaps so incredibly wide to breathe through his mouth.
And then the thing goes inside, and, like, of course, there's, like, vermin that live in there because Giganto's so big that he's a host to, like, other creatures, I guess, that live inside him. And they have to attack the thing, and he has to fight them. And then he manages to get out, and luckily the mouth closes just in time for the nuclear bomb to kill Giganto and nothing else.
Right. And he actually gets caught in the blast. It throws him out of but not bad enough to hurt him permanently.
Now this is, though, where the thing did do a self-sacrifice. I mean, he claims that he's not. He says he knows what he's doing and he's not a suicidal. But you don't know. He could have died here. He has a bomb strapped to his back. This is highly dangerous.
He had a plan, but it could have gone bad.
Sure, you know. And he sacrifices himself. So already maybe Stan is throwing out the whole idea that, he's a jerk villain amongst the group or whatever. And also, this is kind of, they don't say it explicitly, but Johnny says, I hate to say it, but I'm proud of you. So maybe that's what brings Johnny back. They fight like brothers, but then every once in a while they got to give each other props.
Thing doesn't take it. He doesn't take the compliment. He's like, big deal. That and a cup of coffee, or that and a dime will get me a cup of coffee.
That's because he's sensitive.
I like, at this point, it feels brusque but friendly,
right?
Or at least moving toward that direction.
Mm-hmm. And then Submariner decides that the invisible girl is hot, which I tend to agree with. She thinks that he's hot because she agrees to marry him, even though she pretends she doesn't want to. We all know she does because he's got some abs and he's got a swimmer's body.
Yeah, I like to think that Susan definitely is tempted and attracted by Namor. She chooses Reed, but it is a choice that she has to make.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't really say he's hot here. I'm just inferring that because I know later on down there's going to be some chemistry between these two sometimes. Right. But,
and I think that Namor realizes their chemistry, realizes that she is attracted to him, so he always later entertains the possibility when he shouldn't.
Plus, he probably just likes trying to steal her from Reed for some reason. Part of his jerky nature.
Yeah.
And then the Human Torch does the impossible, which I always think is something you should be more careful about when you're writing comics, because once they can do it once, then you should be able to do it all the time. Mm-hmm. And he, spins so fast that he creates this vortex that picks up Giganto, whose name is Giganto, and plunges them back into the water. So it's like, wow, apparently he is very fast.
And it was nice of Torch to clean up that dead Giganto, because he'd probably start to stink before they could get him properly butchered for public consumption.
Yes. I mean, he did really destroy a lot of New York, though. And somehow I doubt they'll follow up on that in any way. But, yeah, kind of a nice little tidy cleanup. Just throw him back in the water. And then, I totally skipped a part I loved.
Yeah.
Because, once again, Invisible Woman, she can't do the battles, right? Not yet. She's got nothing but stealth. And here's this panel on page 20 of the Submariner. You haven't beaten me yet. As long as I have this horn, I could summon countless other sea monsters to attack you. And then the next panel, it's, so it's the horn, huh? And just takes it out of his hand.
She's like, yoink.
Yeah.
And she runs off.
It kind of reminded me of Black Widow in the Avengers movie, huh? It's like, so the Hulk. That's your play. Okay, see you later.
I thought of the same thing when you said that. That's funny.
Good old Sue. Yeah. I don't know. I enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed this episode, John, but I also enjoyed this issue.
Yeah, this is probably the top one for me so far. I think this beats out the Skrulls.
Oh, I don't think the Skrulls were as...
It's a pretty fun story.
Yeah, very fun. The Skrull story was silly, but I didn't dislike them. It was just silly, so it's not like it wasn't an epic core essential thing for me, but it was fun. Mm-hmm. This one's definitely the most Fantastic Four-y of the four we've read, which is good because it's number 4 of the Fantastic Four.
It feels like the comic has starting to come into its own.
Yes.
Like this issue feels like the Fantastic Four.
Yes. Now, did you want to comment on the Hulk thing before we wrap up? Or?
Yeah. I love this. Throughout the comic, there are these little captions above or below the panels that are talking about this thing called the Hulk.
Yes. That's so weird. I've never seen that before or since. I could be wrong. We'll find out, I guess. But
yeah, I don't remember anything like this happening.
It's not like an ad. It's not an ad where it's like the Hulk is coming or, tune into the Hulk on February of whatever. This is just like little sentences. Who's the Hulk? What's the Hulk all about?
You've never seen anyone like the Hulk.
Yeah, the Hulk's crazy awesome, and it's just like, wow. You almost miss it.
And it turns out in the off month between this issue and the next issue, they're going to have a new comic, The Incredible Hulk #1.
Which makes perfect sense because if they came out with something else, that would just have defeated the whole purpose.
Right. It would have defeated the whole purpose. So that's probably where we're going to start, next episode, not to spoil the future or anything, since we're starting to hit the hour mark on this one, maybe even a little bit past it at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on 4 before we wrap it up?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so next episode we'll come back with Hulk #1 and Fantastic Four #5 and whatever else we can squeeze into an hour. And in the meantime, you can send emails to podcast@makeoursmarvel.com.
And you can find out anything else you want to know about the show at makeoursmarvel.com.
We'll do maybe some images or some other cool stuff from these issues. Maybe some examples of these Hulk banners that we're talking about.
Yeah, there you go.
And yeah, I guess that wraps us up. So, until, the Submariner decides to take over the world by, I don't know, forming a movie studio company,
Make ours Marvel.